So now that we have the gas tank removed, we're gonna basically put some acetone in it and basically a chain to basically scrub it out. We also have a separate scrub here that we're gonna try to use to actually clean it out the best we can. We're gonna basically try to tape and plug all the other holes and just leave this one open and close that one as well, and basically try to shake it around and get any rust and any basically debris or grime, any of the leftover varnished fuel in there all out. And we're gonna basically let it sit overnight, maybe for, I guess, for 24 hours, let it sit, maybe even for 2 days, let it sit in there and clean out. And then we'll show you another way to clean this out, basically by using some vinegar and baking soda and some water, basically to clean it out and dry it afterward before we reattach it to the car. So now that we have the fuel tank, we let it sit for about a day and a half with the acetone, so you guys maybe get a better view, see the inside of it. I don't know if you guys can see that, but a lot of it, you know, it cleared up. Actually did a really good job. But we're gonna try to make this all, you know, restored like it was before. You know, I'm gonna try to have some, you know, vinegar. I'll show you guys in a second how to actually restore this gas tank a lot more than it was before. I mean, look at all the varnish and that buildup from below. So basically, here's the fuel tank. If you look at the underside, once you take it out, you're gonna see this right here. Basically, all you really need is just to remove this fuel tank screen. You're basically just get an adjustable wrench. Honestly, there's gonna be people trying to sell it all to you online, but if you just have another person maybe hold it down for you, while you just try to, so that doesn't strip anything, just rotate it really easily. I already had this off earlier, but I'll show you shortly what I actually saw when I was removing this. This is the underside of the tank, by the way. So once you get it off the car, it's actually much easier to remove. So here is actually the fuel tank screen. As you can see, there's these little openings right here. There's actually supposed to be a film there. Obviously, when I took it out, I took it out, and these actual screens were so brittle and so dark from the buildup that was sitting for all this time, and maybe several years even from this older car, that basically this was completely dark, brittle, and just touching it would just collapse. So what's gonna happen, we're gonna basically plug this hole up. You can get aluminum foil or whatever you have, just try to plug that up. Yeah, so what you're gonna do is basically get some aluminum foil or whatever just to plug this hole up, so that way you can actually work freely while you're trying to clean the fuel tank out. We're gonna use a few acetone mixture, let it sit for a couple days like we've already done. And now that we have it out, let me show you guys a better view from the other side. Look at the top of it. I don't know if you can see that. Might need a flash. Anyways, but as we showed earlier, that it's actually, acetone did a really good job at cleaning it. And we're gonna basically use vinegar and baking soda mixture, and I'll show you that. And it's really inexpensive. I mean, if you have any newer car, it's just better to probably just buy a new fuel tank. But this is an older vehicle, fuel tanks are looking, no less than $500 to get, and this is gonna cost you no more than $50 to do, and maybe just a little elbow grease and some time. Let the fuel tank sit. So if you're not in a rush, honestly, this is a quick option. Pretty easy. Basically, have some acetone, sit in there for a couple days. You can already see that it cleaned out a lot, but there is still a lot of buildup. Look at that, black stuff from underneath. So hopefully I'll show you guys shortly how it's done. So in order to basically remove the rust buildup, I don't know if you guys see that, and like the old varnish fuel that we had sitting in here for however long from the previous guy. And you can use this to basically clean it out if you ever put the wrong oil, or I don't know, water or sugar or whatever gets in there. We've already put acetone and let it sit for a day and a half, and it got a lot out. But now we have this white distilled vinegar we're gonna do. You can get a couple of these and just basically fill it up. You don't need to maybe put the whole thing with it. I mean, it would be better if you filled the whole tank with distilled vinegar, but it might get a little pricey. So if you want to just basically, get a couple gallons of these distilled vinegar and basically dilute it with water, just don't dilute it too much. The best thing to do is, obviously get the pure concentration of distilled vinegar. So we're gonna just pour this distilled white vinegar in there. Actually, I can make the funnel for this. So now that you have the funnel in there, pour the white vinegar.
So I basically did the research for you guys. I went ahead and searched up how much you can dilute this white distilled vinegar in terms of water. And for tougher jobs, obviously it's better to have, you know, 100% distilled vinegar. But, you know, in the case of the size of this thing, it's at least 17 gallons, I'd assume, something around there. So, you know, I went ahead and like checked, and a 1-to-1 ratio is totally fine if you have 50% water and 50% of the distilled vinegar. And I definitely recommend, once you have it filled up, so you can see it's pretty filled up here, I would recommend from the actual gas cap side, because you can also, obviously, I don't know how your guys' is, but you see if you can get a little closer here, there's some rust buildup over there, you know, and this will remove the rust. We're going to leave this for about, you know, 24 hours to 48 hours, basically trying to get all that rust out and let it sit. I've heard that adding salt to, you know, vinegar, you know, speeds up the process for, you know, getting rust out. However, you know, I don't know if I want to put salt in here, because getting that out might be a little frustrating. Anyways, for the most part, you know, we're gonna just have this sit for quite a while, and tomorrow, you know, or the next day, we're gonna basically put baking soda with it and basically clean it out and make sure that we get it all dried and get the baking soda out and everything for this flash rusting. And it can rust up right after if you don't, you know, get that baking soda and all that water out. So I'll show you guys what to do next. So it's been over 24 hours. We let the vinegar sit inside the gas tank, and as you can see, I'll get a closer look. I don't know if you can see that good, but it's actually cleaned up pretty well. Inside of it is much better than it was before, but it's still not as good as we'd like it. So we have this pressure washer. Basically, gonna hook this up, spray the inside of it, and, you know, clean as much of the vinegar out as we can. We're going to use some baking soda to basically neutralize the vinegar, and as soon as we neutralize it, we're going to have to dry it out as soon as we can. Let it dry out in the sun, get a blow dryer, whatever you can, try to dry that out, and go from there. So here's our little setup. We have the basically, you know, cleaned out and dried out gas tank. Give you guys a better look. See, it's a lot cleaner than it was before. Got a little residue, and I see, you know, honestly, after drying it, there was a little water droplets coming out. We don't want any water mixing with the gasoline. So what we're gonna basically do is swish the, you know, gasoline around, get any other, you know, residue, any water, anything, all of that out, and just basically just funnel it into this empty 1 gallon container. That way, if there's anything else in there, we could just give it a one last, you know, final touch up, get anything out of there, and call it a day, and then put it back on the car. Okay, so we basically run several gallons in the gas tank, got any water out of there that might have been lying around, any other debris, and maybe other videos won't show you this on YouTube, but I think it's a good idea to at least run some gasoline in there. That way it clears anything else up, and you can be sure that you don't have any other water in it. We did go to the store and we bought some of this fuel injector and carb cleaner. I do recommend that you put, you know, a bottle of that, you know, every time you fill up after you run it and cleaned it out, just so that, you know, it cleans out any other debris through the lines. I also recommend, if you do have the energy and the time, to go down to the fuel pump, remove that line that leads to the fuel injector to the other cylinders. Just basically blow some compressed air through that, clear up any debris that might have been clogging up those lines. But now we're going to basically reinstall this back into the tank,